Did anyone ever tell you the brutal truth about life after 80? Probably not. Most people don't talk about it, not honestly. They'll mention the birthdays, the slower pace, maybe a few health issues. But the real shifts, the ones that change how you see yourself and how the world sees you, those usually stay quiet. Crossing into your 80s isn't just about aging. It's about entering a stage of life that's both deeply reflective and quietly challenging. It's a time when your world gets smaller, not always by choice. When your body doesn't bounce back like it used to, and you start noticing that you're being seen less, and sometimes not at all. It's also when you face moments that no one prepared you for, like needing help but struggling to ask for it, or having all the time in the world, but feeling unsure of what to do with it. Regrets can start to echo louder, and a sense of purpose can feel harder to grab onto. That's the part no one really talks about. And that's why this conversation matters. Because if no one tells you what's coming, you can end up feeling blindsided, frustrated, isolated, even invisible. But when you understand the truth, when you see it clearly, it no longer controls you. You can respond with clarity, with strength, with dignity. So here's the call. Don't wait for someone else to tell you how this stage of life is supposed to look. Learn what's real, prepare yourself, and shape these years on your terms. Because the truth might be brutal, but it's also freeing. And once you see it, you can live these years with your eyes open, your mind steady, and your head held high. Let's begin. Number 1, a social circle that quietly disappears. One of the first things that changes after turning 80 isn't your strength or memory, it's your connections. The social fabric you spent decades weaving begins to thin out. Old friends stop calling, familiar faces around the neighborhood vanish. Some move closer to their children, some pass away quietly, and others, once so full of energy, begin to retreat into their own silence. It's not that people stop caring, it's that life gets complicated for everyone. Children grow older and busier, grandchildren move far away, and the people who once made up your day-to-day world slowly fade into background noise. The house feels a little emptier, the phone rings less, holidays pass with fewer voices around the table and more empty chairs. In your younger years, the world felt full of conversations, plans, laughter, and familiar routines. After 80, you begin to realize that you've outlasted not just people, but the rhythm of community itself. You still wake up, still move through your day, but something is missing. The people who used to move through it with you. There was a woman named Elise, 87, who used to teach dance well into her 70s. Her students adored her. The studio buzzed with life, conversations, music, hugs. But after retiring, things got quiet. One by one, her students drifted away, busy with their own lives. She told me once, "I used to hear music everywhere. Now I mostly hear my own footsteps on the kitchen floor." This kind of loneliness isn't always sharp. It's often a slow ache. It shows up in the silence before bed, in the way you stop setting extra places at the table, in the way conversations become shorter, more formal, less frequent. You realize that the number of people who understand your full story, who truly know your journey, is shrinking. But this realization doesn't have to end in despair. It can become a spark. You can still create new relationships, still reach out, still offer your time, your presence, your wisdom. Join a local book club, start a garden group, write to an old friend. Connection at this stage of life requires initiative, but the reward is just as rich as it ever was, because your presence still matters. You're not just a memory keeper. You're a living part of the present. Someone out there would be honored to share a moment, a story, a laugh with you. Don't wait for life to knock. Go open the door. After all you've lived through, you already carry the strength to begin again. Number 2, a body that stops bouncing back. Crossing into your 80s, your body no longer gives subtle hints. It makes declarations. Those minor discomforts that once disappeared overnight now stick around like uninvited guests. The tiredness that a quick nap used to fix may now stretch across days, and you begin to see just how fragile stability can be. Even small health setbacks can shift your entire routine in the blink of an eye. One day starts like any other. You get dressed, have your tea, water the plants, and then, without warning, something feels off. A stumble, a strange tightness in your chest, or a cough that overstays its welcome. Suddenly you're at the clinic, listening to unfamiliar terms, signing forms, and realizing this might be more than a passing thing. At this age, the little things aren't so little anymore. What makes it harder isn't just the discomfort, it's the suddenness of change. You can be doing all the right things, moving your body, eating with care, staying on top of appointments. But your body doesn't always follow the plan. A minor infection can feel like a mountain to climb. A short illness can pull you into a long recovery. And even when it's over, your body doesn't quite return to the version you knew. I remember a gentleman named Raymond, 85, who had a routine of walking 2 miles every morning without fail. He was disciplined, cheerful, and rarely missed a day. But after a brief hospital stay for dehydration, something shifted. "I didn't expect it to set me back like this," he said. "Getting dressed became a task. I felt like I had to relearn my mornings." That's the hard truth no one really prepares you for. Sometimes the body doesn't bounce back, it resets at a new baseline. Recovery becomes less about returning to the old you and more about learning how to move forward from where you are now. Even when you're careful, even when you rest with intention, your body may respond with a slowness you didn't ask for. But in that shift lies a new kind of wisdom. You stop pushing through pain and start listening more deeply. You give your energy to what matters most. You adjust, not out of defeat, but out of respect for the journey your body has taken. Health becomes less of a goal and more of a relationship, something you tend to gently, day by day. You might not move as fast, but your steps carry more purpose. You might rest more often, but your rest feels earned, even sacred. There's strength in this slower rhythm because it's rooted in presence, in experience, in a kind of resilience that doesn't need to bounce, only to endure. And perhaps most beautifully, you begin to redefine what strength looks like. It's not always measured in speed or stamina, but in the quiet discipline of showing up anyway, of adjusting the sails when the wind changes, of choosing grace over frustration. Because even if your body moves differently, your spirit still has places to go. Number 3, a growing need for help. Reaching your 80s, one of the most humbling truths begins to settle in. Tasks that were once second nature now demand more care, or another set of hands. It doesn't come all at once. At first, it's small things. Stepping more cautiously on stairs, leaving the top shelf untouched, or passing on night driving when the rain starts to fall. These moments slip in quietly, then stay. Imagine walking into your kitchen and everything is just a little taller than you remember. Not physically, but in effort. The kettle feels heavier. The floor feels farther away when something drops. And reaching that jar on the top shelf feels like a mountain climb. It's not the objects that changed, it's the quiet shift in your body's coordination, your balance, your trust in your own reflexes. And in that moment you realize, it's not about giving up control, it's about adapting with grace. Even a small step stool becomes a symbol, not of limitation, but of the clever, thoughtful choices you're making to keep going, safely and with dignity. Your body may still feel strong most days, but you begin to sense limits where there used to be ease. The difficulty isn't always the physical adjustment, it's the emotional reckoning. For someone who spent their life being capable, dependable, and relied upon, the idea of needing assistance feels like unfamiliar territory. You might downplay the moments that matter, telling yourself you're just tired, skipping errands instead of admitting the car feels overwhelming, or brushing off a fall as just clumsy. You keep these things to yourself, not out of fear, but pride, a deep-rooted desire to hold on to your independence, even as it evolves. That's the catch. Independence doesn't disappear after 80, but it changes shape. It becomes less about doing everything solo and more about knowing what you can manage safely. True independence lies in making wise choices, even if one of those choices is asking for a hand when you need it. There was a woman I met named Ruth, 86, who once ran her home like a clock. She fixed her own leaky sink, carried firewood inside during the winter, and never once asked for help raising her 3 boys. But after struggling with dizziness one summer afternoon while changing a light bulb, something shifted. Her son began stopping by with groceries and staying for dinner. Over time, she told me, it wasn't the help I resisted. It was the idea that I wasn't who I used to be. But now I see I'm just someone with different strengths. That's where the transformation lies. Needing help doesn't mean losing who you are. In fact, allowing others to lend their time or support gives you more freedom, not less. Whether it's someone to walk beside you or tools that make life easier, these aren't crutches. They're extensions of wisdom. They help you stay engaged, mobile, and safe. Small adjustments, a walker nearby, a meal delivery service, even a neighbor checking in, are not signs of defeat, but proof of care. These changes don't signal your decline. They reflect your willingness to keep going in a way that honors where you are now. And there's another beauty in this shift, the deepened bond between you and the people who love you. When you let them show up for you, you're not being a burden. You're allowing them to give back what you've offered them your whole life. It becomes a shared grace, a quiet strength between generations, built not on dependence, but on mutual trust and love. Because as time goes on, asking for help doesn't shrink your life. It opens it. It brings connection where there could be isolation. It replaces quiet struggle with shared warmth. And most of all, it reminds you that your worth isn't measured by how much you carry alone, but by how open you are to living wisely, fully, and supported. Number 4, a presence the world starts to overlook. There's a certain kind of disappearance that has nothing to do with leaving a room. It's the kind that happens while you're still standing in it. After 80, you may start to feel like the world no longer registers you, not in cruel ways, but in quiet, consistent ones. You're in line, but the cashier speaks to the person behind you. You're at the doctor's office, but the questions go to your son. You're sitting at dinner, and the server assumes someone else will make your choices. These aren't loud dismissals, but they land with weight. You begin to notice that your presence feels thinner, like you're fading from the center of the frame. This is hard because you haven't changed in the ways that matter. You still think, feel, observe. You've carried a life full of decisions, built things that mattered, loved deeply, endured losses, and now all that history seems to be overlooked simply because your hands move slower or your face carries time. It's not usually done out of cruelty, it's just that the modern world moves fast, and it often sees age as something to work around rather than listen to. If you're not careful, you start to shrink, not physically, but emotionally. You withdraw, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're tired of being unheard. I once knew a woman named June, 87, who had been a professor for decades. She went on a group tour at a museum and listened quietly as a guide explained events she had lived through. No one asked her thoughts, even as she stood among photographs she had once lived behind. "They don't see me as part of it anymore," she told me, not angry, just tired. "Like I'm just here to watch, not to add." But you're not here to fade into the background. You're not here to be glanced past like a forgotten painting. You are still a voice worth hearing, a presence that carries meaning. Just because the spotlight moves doesn't mean your light has gone out. So what do you do when the world stops looking your way? You stay present anyway. You speak up, not for attention, but for truth. You hold eye contact. You answer before being asked. You sit at the table with the same strength you always have, and when necessary, you pull your own chair forward. And here's the deeper truth. Your visibility doesn't depend on others acknowledging it. It depends on you continuing to live boldly, to bring your stories to the surface, to move through the world like you still belong in every room. Because you do. Your life is not a chapter that has closed. It's a story still being told. You carry decades of lived experience that no one else can replicate. And even if the world sometimes forgets to look, you are still worth seeing. So ask yourself, are you letting the world forget you? Or are you reminding it every day that you're still here? Not just existing, but living with intention. Because presence isn't about how loudly others recognize you. It's about how firmly you choose to stand in your story, to own your space, and to keep showing up, even when the world looks the other way. Number 5, a sense of regret if purpose isn't redefined. As you journey through your 80s, one of the quietest challenges isn't physical decline, it's the fading sense of purpose. Life becomes less structured, the clock ticks slower, days stretch longer, and in those long hours, a new kind of silence appears. Not around you, but within. It's a silence that invites reflection. Sometimes that reflection is warm, a smile at an old photograph, a laugh at a remembered mistake. But other times, it's laced with sorrow, not loud sorrow, subtle, lingering sorrow. The kind that whispers, "Why didn't I go?" Or, "Why didn't I say it when I had the chance?" This kind of regret doesn't shout. It creeps in when you have all the time to look back, but not the strength to go back. It's a realization that some doors closed while you were too busy keeping others open. And while aging is often framed as a time of wisdom, relaxation, and the joy of watching others grow, there's also an unspoken truth that many feel, but few say aloud. Now that everything I had to do is done, what do I get to do? When you've spent most of your life in motion, raising families, working hard, serving others, stopping feels unnatural. And when the responsibilities fall away, it can seem like your value does too. But that's an illusion. I once spoke to a woman named Esther, 86, who had been a nurse for decades. After retiring, she admitted to feeling invisible. "I spent my whole life helping people," she told me. "Now I just sit." But after a while, she started writing notes to people in her church, handwritten, thoughtful notes that lifted spirits. She found a new role, encourager. Her purpose didn't vanish, it evolved. Because purpose in your 80s isn't about what you do, it's about what you mean. It's not about leading the charge, but being a quiet force that still holds weight. Maybe your wisdom becomes someone else's map. Maybe your presence brings peace in someone else's storm. Regret can only grow in stillness if we stop planting meaning in the soil of today. You may not be who you once were, but you're still becoming, and that means you still have agency, still have something sacred to offer. So take the season not as an ending, but as a transition. Let each day ask you a softer kind of question. Not what did I accomplish, but what did I notice? Who did I comfort? Where did I bring calm? And if you ever feel lost in the quiet, ask yourself, what can I still create, still nurture, still love, right here, right now? The answer to that may be your truest purpose yet. Reaching your 80s is no ordinary milestone. It's a testament to a life shaped by decades of love, loss, perseverance, transformation, and grit. And while that kind of strength is hard-won, it comes hand in hand with new kinds of challenges, some quiet and creeping, others loud and unavoidable. But acknowledging these truths doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're showing up with honesty, with courage, and with the wisdom that only comes from living long enough to know that life is rarely perfect, but always valuable. So let me ask, which of these 5 truths resonated with you the most? Was it the silence that grows when your circle starts to shrink? The ache of a body that takes longer to heal? The humbling realization that you now need help after years of offering it? Or was it the sense of invisibility when the world looks past you instead of into your eyes? Or the ache of drifting purpose when the busyness fades and you're left wondering what your life means now? Whichever one struck a chord, I want you to know this. You are not the only one feeling this way. These thoughts, these moments of reflection, of doubt, of longing, they're shared often quietly by so many others walking the same path. And here's the truth that remains. You still have choices. You can choose connection, even if it looks different than it used to. You can choose to rest without guilt, to ask for help without shame, to raise your voice when you're overlooked, and to lower it with grace when others need space. You can choose to release what didn't happen and deeply honor what did. This stage of life isn't a final page. It's the soul of your story, the part where every moment carries more depth, where the smallest gestures hold the greatest meaning, where your presence becomes not just enough, but powerful. So now we turn it over to you. What truth landed with you today? What moment made you pause and think? Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your voice. Your words don't just encourage us, they might just speak life into someone else too. If this video spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need it. Your support helps us continue crafting meaningful content that uplifts and informs. And as you move forward today, ask yourself this: what small thing can I do with great meaning? Because no matter your age, your story still matters, and it's not done being written. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you in the next video.